It's been a while, folks, but we are back. Welcome everyone to another edition of your favorite movie podcast. That's right, it's the one and only Forced Perspective. This is episode, I believe we're at 112 now, Adolfo. 112 or 113. I'm sure in the video title you'll be putting the correct number. I tend to forget the numbers that we do when it comes to the episodes now, but I mean it's all good. But welcome one and all anyway to Forced Perspective. Of course, I am your host, Sports Guy 515, and it's been a while, folks. But we're getting back on that saddle like we always do, and we're just gonna catch up with each other today. We're gonna talk some movies, like you all know and love us for, and we're just gonna shoot the shit for about 45 minutes, an hour and a half, however long this conversation will take us. But before we get into that, of course, I got to introduce my my esteemed co-host, I should say, Adolfo, who I miss dearly, like a brother. What's going on, man?
Well, what's going on? Esteemed. I like that. I'll take esteemed. I don't know if this is 112 or 113. I got to be honest. You'd think we would prepare for this before we go on, but I just don't know.
I think it's 112. I have a feeling it's 112.
If you're hearing / watching this and you see the number and we're way off, then you can laugh at how dumb we are.
Pretty much. But the purpose of this episode is basically, like I said already, to kind of just get back on that horse and start talking about some movies again. Like followers of the show know, during the month of July, August, we usually tend to take a hiatus from the show anyway because of my job. It's so demanding during this time of year. So, but I think this time there was a lot of things going on, not just myself professionally, but with you. You just welcome another little one into the world, right?
Right. So right at the time of your busy time, I went off and I had a second kid. So she, bundle of joy, back in July. She's been taking up a lot of my spare time. So that combined with your schedule has really pushed back our podcasts several months at this point. So so that's why you haven't heard from us, not only on this show but also the Essential Films podcast. Although I did just drop a recent kind of bonus episode of us just kind of shooting the shit, but and then City Lights will go up soon as well. But yeah, it's been a while since we got on the horn and talked to each other.
You're holding off on that City Lights for a particular reason, right? Or is it just like literally just timing? Like
I want to time it specifically, honestly. I was going to drop it normally. It's pretty much done, but then because of, I may as well just talk about it now. I am going to, on October 14th at 12:30 Eastern. I am going to be featured on Turner Classic Movies, introducing with Ben Mankiewicz City Lights as part of their guest programmer series. And this is, by the way, I found out I was going to be doing this after we recorded our City Lights episode. So now it's at a point where I'm just going to wait to drop it pretty much right before that episode airs on TCM, to kind of have a little bit of a, what's the word? Not branding, but what's that word? The fluidity, or you know what I'm trying to say.
Right. That you get that a little bit of a marketing push in a way.
Yeah, the marketing. Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome, man. You had to keep that on the down low for a while, though, right?
I did. I actually didn't know. I didn't know whenever we were recording the episode, obviously, and then I found out maybe a few weeks before my daughter was born. It was kind of nuts because they had to do, because they do it through Skype, right? So
right.
In my own house, so like they sent me their own microphone and everything, and they wanted to do a connection test to make sure my internet signal was strong enough and everything, and they scheduled it for 2 days after my daughter was born, so I had to kind of leave the hospital for a couple hours to come do this to the Skype test and go back again. So but yeah, I think everything went well. It's kind of crazy because I logged onto Skype, and then all of a sudden I just see, like, there's Ben Mankiewicz and there's the Turner Classic Movie Studio. I'm sure you've seen it if you watch Turner Classic. It's like that kind of, it looks kind of like a living room. There's like books in the background and stuff like that. It's like, oh, there it is. So yeah, I'm just talking to Ben Mankiewicz, probably like 15 minutes. The recording took about 15 minutes. I don't think I fumbled too much, obviously, that it edited out, but I think I presented pretty well. So I'm pretty excited about it. Hopefully it turns out okay.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for you. I already have the DVR set for that.
Oh, is it already? Is it showing up on the guide already?
Yes.
Awesome.
So the thing about that though is originally I was going to be home to watch it, but I may have to go to work on that Sunday for a few hours. So I already set the DVR to record that. So I will definitely be checking it out probably that same day when I get home. But I'm really happy for you, man. When you first announced it, I think it was on Facebook. I was I was freaking ecstatic for you, bro. That's exciting.
Yeah, it
Congrats
was
on that.
kind of crazy because like I'm part of the backlot club that they have, and they sent out they sent out regular emails, and there's like, oh, if you want to sign up, and actually they're doing it again. That like people can sign up for like the January February versions of it now, but like and the process was basically like you put your name, your address, or your email address and everything else, and then you have to list like 10 movies and kind of write like a little mini essay about all of them. And then like within like a week, I was like contacted by them and like, hey, we're gonna pick you and be ready on this date. And I was like, oh crap. So I've never like quote unquote won anything like that before. So it was kind of a surreal experience. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. So to everybody, definitely Sunday, October 14th at 12 p.m. Eastern time, I believe. It's Eastern time, right? 12,
Yes,
or is it
12 Eastern.
Okay. 12 Eastern. City Lights on TCM will be introduced by my boy Adolfo and Ben Mankiewicz as part of the guest programmer series. Definitely check that out.
Yep. Pretty excited. Pretty pumped about it.
Yes. But I do. Here is the $1 billion question though. Before we move on, did they let you plug anything?
I plugged the. I think I plugged the Essential Films podcast. I'm not sure if I got to plug this one or not. Because I know that because I brought it up that I was part of 2 podcasts, and I was talking about the Essential Films podcast at one point, and then I was also trying to work in the plug for this one, but it was during like I kind of like flubbed something that I was saying, and then I had to do a retake. So I don't know if they're gonna use
If it'll make it,
it'll make it or not. You know what I mean? So I tried, I really did. So I don't know if it's gonna make it because it was like I did have to do a retake, and then I don't know if it worked. So we'll see.
Oh, definitely. But that's very exciting for not. I'm excited for you. So like I feel excited anyway, even though you're the one that's gonna be on TV. But like this is great for you, man. That's congrats again.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm pretty stoked. So hopefully it'll bring in more listeners. Even if the plugs don't make it, maybe people will search by name, and then it'll lead them to our stuff. I don't know. We'll see.
Definitely. So let's move on to, I mean, again, we're not going to have time to review every single thing that we've seen in the past. Like, what is it now at this point? 5 months? Like, yeah, it's about to be 5 months now since we last did a show. I think our last episode we reviewed Deadpool 2 and Solo. And since then, a lot of stuff has come out. A lot of things have happened in Hollywood. I don't know if we want to get into some of the meatier stuff as far as news, but as far as things that we've seen, I got to be honest. There really hasn't been a lot of things in the last 5 months that I've seen that have really caught my attention. Like now, A Star Is Born has caught my attention. Blackkklansman, which I saw a couple months ago, actually saw it the day of SummerSlam right before I went to check that out. But Blackkklansman caught my attention. Hereditary, when I got to see the advanced screening of it, caught my attention. There's quite a few movies. I shouldn't say quite a few. I should say more like there were a few movies that did catch my attention, and they're probably going to remember when we do our top 10 in a few months. But overall, the summer was kind of blah. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I kind of stopped after my kid was born July 17th, so me going to the theater was a very rare experience, just because, I need to be around to help take care of the kid. Once he's a little older and she's, sleeping through the night, I could probably, because, when I had my first daughter, what I would do was basically just go to a theater across the street. And that was like, basically see like the latest show possible, like a 10 or 11 p.m. show. Now I can't really do that. Even though I still do have a theater across the street, it's not an AMC theater, and I have the AMC, what is it called? The AMC
the A-list.
And I don't really want to spend money on another theater if I have the A-list, and the AMC, the closest AMC is not that far. It's like 10 minutes away, but it's still like, it's still harder for me to get to a theater at night, whenever, you have like a newborn in the house. So my going to the movie, I have seen a couple. I have not seen Star is Born. I've heard great things about it. It's getting awards buzz already. I have not gotten to, that's kind of the last major release that's been out there. I've not seen Venom, and from what I'm hearing, it doesn't seem like I want to. But I have caught a couple of things. I did catch Hereditary over the summer, which I thought was fantastic. We can go in a little bit into a couple details here, but I think the last movie I saw in theaters was Blackkklansman.
Yeah, and Blackkklansman, just real quick about that one. I think I might have posted it. I think you said something about it, and like one of your friends commented, and I kind of added a comment to that as well. But for those of you who have been with us, for a while now, and remember our original review for 12 Years a Slave, and I remember talking about during that review, I still remember it because it's remember like it was yesterday, because after Blackkklansman, I had that same exact feeling, that it had the same exact atmosphere. And I'm at Alamo Drafthouse, by the way, for this movie, so that's what made it even trippier. So if you all remember, what I said about 12 Years a Slave was that at the end of that movie, while the credits were rolling, it literally felt like a funeral procession was happening in front of me. Like everybody was just quiet. Nobody was talking. Everybody was just kind of taking in what they just saw, and they were quietly just filing out, single file, out of the theater. It was something I had really never experienced before after a movie, and it was surreal in a way. Yeah. Same thing happened to me with Blackkklansman. Like literally, everybody's getting up and just nobody's saying a word. None of the servers are saying a word. None of the bus boys are saying a word. Everybody's just quiet. And it was eerie, man. It was freaking eerie.
Yeah, that was a. I mean, first of all, so far my movie of the year. I'm just gonna say that. But also, I did have like, it was kind of like, it did have that kind of silence afterwards, but it was also a little bit of a buzz. I don't know how else to put it, but it was kind of a little bit of like there was something in the air. You know what I mean? And especially because, and obviously Spike Lee did this very blatantly. But especially because it ties into a lot of kind of current events, and I mean, at the very end, they basically name drop Charlottesville and the riots of Charlottesville, right? So I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, they show footage of it, but but throughout the film itself, there's a lot of correlation to like 2018 politics and current events too. So it certainly like hit like a Mack truck to people, you know what I mean? So like, I felt like people kind of didn't know what to expect, because a lot of the movie's fun, right? There's a lot of the movie that's just like, that you're sitting there and you're enjoying it because it's like, it's fun to see these like, KKK buffoons get theirs, right? But then like at the very end, it kind of, not that it takes like a serious turn, or how should I say it? It's not that it like takes a complete hard left, because it had a lot of that serious stuff in it already, but then it just like, I'd say the last 10 minutes or so is just completely like stark serious, right?
Yeah.
So but I mean, in a good way. I like that in a good way. And my favorite scene is that in that sequence when they cut back and forth with the Klan watching The Birth of a Nation, and then they cut back with like Harry Belafonte talking to the group of like the black students, talking about how like, all the lynchings and stuff like that, and they kept doing the back and forth cuts. I was like, that was really good stuff.
Yeah, and I got to give it up, John David Washington, man. He's got it in his blood. That guy was phenomenal in that movie. And Adam Driver was really good in that one too. Topher Grace, even though he didn't get a lot of screen time, he played that slime ball. What's the David Duke? That fucking slime ball, but he played him like to a T. It was pretty awesome to witness, actually. And they're back and forth on the phone in those scenes. Oh man, it was meant as comic relief, but like you could tell like there was a lot of fu and embedded in those scenes, and it really just oozed off of it. And I really enjoyed that whole back and forth. It was funny, and like it was kind of like satisfying for me personally too, but
it's a really satisfying movie. It's a really satisfying movie.
Yeah, definitely gonna get awards buzz. I can see it already. just everything about it was just great, like everything.
Well, I mean, don't go too far yet, because I remember Spike Lee's been burned by in the past where he hasn't gotten awards when he should have. So let's wait until the actual,
That's true.
He deserves it. He certainly deserves it. But I mean, Do the Right Thing is one of the best American movies ever made, and that movie was totally snubbed that year. So
that's true.
But yeah, that was my favorite movie of the year so far.
Yeah, right now that's definitely in my top 5. I still have Hereditary up there. Let's talk about that.
That was really good.
Yes. For those who don't know, you probably don't because I haven't talked about it on the show yet. I actually got to go into an advanced screening of Hereditary just a few days before it was set to be released. They had it at Alamo Drafthouse, and the thing I like about my membership thing there, like they have what's called Victory Rewards. I think we might have talked about this already on the Essential Films at one point, but the higher you go, the more likely you're going to be invited to these advanced screenings. And I got to go to this one. The thing about this one too was that the director was there. I keep forgetting the guy's name, but he's relatively new. I'm trying to find him right now. Ari Aster. There you go. That's his name. So Ari Aster was there along with Millie Shapiro, who played the daughter, and Alex Wolff, who played the son, awesome, Toni Collette's son. Yeah, and Toni Collette. This is Toni Collette's movie.
Dude, Toni Collette needs an Oscar like now. Seriously, that was
this amazing. Is her movie, bro.
That was an amazing performance.
Movie. But she had great support. Gabriel Byrne, bro. I loved him getting a payday too. And then of course Alex Wolff, Millie Shapiro were incredible here. And I got to they sat down for a Q&A afterwards. This guy from Rolling Stone, I keep forgetting his name, and I do apologize if he's listening to this. I forgot his name, but he was the moderator for it. And what I liked about it too was, and this is going slightly into spoiler territory, but I have to talk about this because it's Alamo Drafthouse. So this guy, I guess one of the workers at the theater, he did a little intro for the movie before it started, and he made a comment near the end where he said, by the way, folks, the studio's paying for your dessert today. So big round of applause for A24, for supporting. They're giving you all free dessert, but it's going to come at a specific point in the movie. You won't know when, but when they start serving it, you'll kind of put two and two together, right? So,
I know what it is.
So for those and I'm going slightly into spoiler territory, folks. So if you haven't seen it, maybe you want to skip these next couple of minutes, but they served the cake that was at the party that that Alex Wolff's character took his sister to. So yeah, that was pretty evil. But I remember at the time they're serving the dessert, like, oh, okay, cool. We're getting the peanut cake, whatever. It was a chocolate cake with like almonds in it or whatever it was. It was pretty good actually. But we didn't know what was gonna happen. And then when it happened, and then what subsequently happened. By the way, that big moment in the middle of the film that kind of leads us into Act 2. What'd you think of that when you first saw it?
Dude, everyone jumped out of their chairs and screamed in my theater, like, because it was so unexpected, and like it's really the only jump in the movie if you think about it. Like now that I think of, because it's really more along the lines of
in
like,
your face.
Yeah, it's really more along the lines of the film itself is more something like a Rosemary's Baby, where it's less about the jump scare and it's more about the tension and the tension and the dread throughout the whole movie until like the last like 15 minutes where it goes fucking crazy. But that one moment, like where it goes from like Act 1 to Act 2 right after that party, like that's like the biggest quote unquote jump scare, I think, and everyone like flipped the hell out whenever that happened. If you've seen it, you know what we're talking about. But if you haven't seen it, I really don't want to spoil it because it is a great moment, like great quote unquote great moment in the movie that like if you don't know it ahead of time, like I really don't want to spoil it for people. So yeah, that was pretty jarring.
Exactly. It's a great narrative moment too. Like, and just like at your theater, my theater jumped out when that happened. I remember once it happened, my jaw literally dropping to the floor, and it stayed there for like, I don't know, like the next 5 minutes afterwards. Cause it's like, what the hell just happened?
Because you're like, it's really hard to talk about, but you're kind of like,
It is.
okay, the
It
whole
is.
story has now changed from what I thought it was going to be.
Yes, and if
Because
you
you
watch
thought
the
it was going to
trailer,
be
it's
one
leading
kind
to,
of horror
this
movie, and then it
specific
changes to
story.
like, what's that?
Exactly. If you watch the trailer, it's taking you in this direction, and then as you watch the movie and this happens, it's like, wait a minute, the trailer lied to me, you know.
Oh, the trailer
So
totally lied.
the trailer is very misleading for this movie. So if you watch it and you think, okay, it's gonna go in this direction, this is what's gonna happen. Oh, they yanked the rug right out from underneath you halfway through this movie, and it's incredible. It really is. And the good thing about it too is that I have the Blu-ray, obviously, so I watched it the second time. And if you pay attention, they drop hints as to what's going to happen right at the
Yeah, they do
beginning
with the bird.
with the bird, and then
Yeah.
at the funeral.
I
Like
thought about the
there's
bird afterwards. I was like, oh, I now I get it.
there's hints. Like they're telling you what's going to happen at the end. Obviously in the first viewing you don't catch these things, but subsequently you're like, Ari Aster, I see what you did there. Well played, sir. But again, we got to talk about Toni Collette a little bit because
Oh my god, she's amazing.
she
Bow down to the queen.
practically steals every scene in this movie. I think the scene for me that put it over the top, and you might agree with me. You might have another scene, but for me personally, the scene that put it over the top that I was like, yeah, this is her fucking movie. Was the dinner scene with her and Peter
Oh
and
yeah.
Gabriel Byrne. That was freaking intense, and all three of those actors acted their asses off in that one, and that was so uncomfortable to watch, man. And it really resembled like a dysfunctional family dinner, and you feel like you're like this fly on the wall that you shouldn't be even listening to any of this stuff, and you just feel like this sense of dread and discomfort, like this family's been torn apart, and it's horrible.
Yeah, that is a really great scene. And that's it's funny because they mess with you with this movie. With the name, right? The name is Hereditary. So the whole time, and again, I don't want to go into like the ending or what happens in the end, but a lot of I'm going to tread carefully here, but a lot of the movie has to deal with, let's say, depression or mental illness, right? And you start to wonder, are all the things that are happening in the movie actually supernatural things that are happening, or because it's quote unquote hereditary, is it mental illness that's running in the family that people are thinking these things are happening? And the film gives you a definite answer at the end, but it totally screws with you the whole time.
Yeah, it kind of gives you that, is it or isn't feeling throughout the whole narrative. And it's good because it kind of keeps you hooked, and it keeps you wondering, like, okay, where are they going? Like, it keeps you guessing that entire time. Like I already mentioned at the beginning, they kind of tricks you into a sense of complacency where you think you know where it's going. Then that big scene happens, and then after that, it just keeps you guessing that entire time. It's like, okay, I don't know where this is leading, where it's gonna end. All I know is I'm digging it. and yes, that lasts what, 10-15 minutes?
It goes
bonkers.
It absolutely goes bonkers, and like I was like, I have no idea what's happening now, and it's freaking me out. And it's grim. I'm not gonna say if it's happy or sad at the end, but it's grim. I'll leave it there.
Do you remember? And I promise to talk about this as spoiler free as I can, but there was a big reaction scene from the audience near the end. I think he's in his bedroom, or I forget what room Peter's in, and then you see something on the ceiling.
The flossing.
I think it was that.
Is that what you're talking about? The flossing of the body parts.
Well, not quite.
Okay.
Remember, he's walking through the I think it's his bedroom. I think it's his bedroom, like because he's hearing something, and then he gets up, he's walking in his bedroom, and then like you see the lightning kind of strike, and then the lightning shining the light on the ceiling, and something's up there in the ceiling.
Oh yes, now I know
that part freaked everybody.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was a great moment too, because just kind of being a part of that like joint crowd reaction just kind of made that moment even more epic. I
thought you meant like at the very end where what the mom was doing with her You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, at the very end. What
Yeah.
happened at the treehouse, right?
Yes, that's what I was thinking of.
That was another like, what
That
the
was
hell
another
movie?
like, what am I looking at right now?
What the hell am I watching?
No, this movie is amazing. It's probably my number 2 of the year, and I hope it hits it gets awards buzz. If nothing else, Toni Collette needs a goddamn actress nomination because she was unbelievable. Like, I would say the best like female performance in a horror movie, like, in a long time.
Oh, I mean, even if the Oscars don't recognize her, Golden Glober, man. I mean, Golden Globes tend to be a little more. I don't know what the word is, but like they'll go into categories like this and nominate people from like horror movies. Like they're more liberal, I guess. I'll just quote unquote liberal in that way. But she has to get something for it because she was awesome. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. And then what was I going to say before? Oh, as far as Hereditary on my top, it's definitely my top 5. It was my number 1 for a while. I don't know if it still is, because a lot of stuff has come out since then. Like we talked about already, Blackkklansman, Star is Born, A Quiet Place was number 1 for a while for me too.
Quiet Place is really good.
Yeah. So
the genre movies this year have been pretty good. In general,
a lot of good stuff have come out so far this year, and there's still a lot of good stuff to come from what I'm seeing. Like there's a lot of buzz around quite a few of these quote unquote Oscar contenders that are, or possible Oscar contenders. So I'm excited to see some of those. But yeah, Hereditary was freaking incredible.
Yeah, I love that movie. That was a great movie.
Now let me go back.
Let's
go through some of this
real quick. I do want to mention I saw a movie that you saw early in the year. I caught up with it on Blu-ray. Thoroughbreds.
Oh, awesome! What'd you think of that one?
That was a great movie.
Yes,
it was an awesome movie. Like I didn't really know what to expect. Like I remember you trying to tell me it was kind of like Heather's, and I was like, okay. So I went into it, and it's definitely, that vibe is definitely there, but it's not as funny as Heather's is. I mean, I would still say this kind of qualifies as a dark comedy because there's comedic moments, but it's really dark comedy. Like it's really dark. I don't want to. And we did, we did a whole segment on it on a previous episode, so I would point people to that. But I just kind of wanted to touch on it real quick because I did catch up with it on Blu-ray, and I thought it was like fantastic. Like I thought the cinematography was amazing. I thought the 2 leads, Anya Taylor-Joy and what's the other one? She was in Ready Player One. Olivia Cook. They were fantastic, and the. It really kind of almost depressed me a little bit that it was Anton Yelchin's last movie, because he was great in that movie, and like he didn't have a ton to do. He was in like 3 or 4 scenes, but like the second he appears on screen, you're like, oh man, he's so good. He's so good in this role. He's such a sleazy piece of shit in this movie. and like you immediately buy it, and you're like, oh, it was.
And then it makes you sad.
It makes you sad because you're like, oh, he had so much more to offer. Like, look how good he is in this movie, And he's good in like the Star Trek movies and in Green Room and everything else I've seen him in. But it was just like, this is like one of the movies where I was just like, wow, that kid could act, and now he's like not here. That's awful. That's a waste, man. But he was great in that movie.
It really, he really was. All 3 were really good in this movie.
Yeah, I love that. That movie was fantastic. I would that's a Blu-ray or rental recommendation for me right there, because I just kind of caught up with it because I was like, oh, I think Mark talked about this, and then I didn't really kind of remember what you said about it, and when I watched, I was like, holy crap, this movie's great. Yeah,
man, just incredible. I've already watched. I've done like 3 viewings of that already since I bought the Blu-ray. I think it came out back in June. Mm-hmm. Incredible stuff, and I have the soundtrack on vinyl, which is actually a nice Mondo exclusive, so I was able to pick that up. Freaking awesome, man. Have you seen Won't You Be My Neighbor? I think you have.
Yes, I did.
Oh man, that was a heartbreaker too for me, because for those who don't know, Won't You Be My Neighbor is the Mr. Rogers documentary, and I'll be very honest. I wasn't that big of a Mr. Rogers guy growing up. Yeah, I did watch him because he was on TV. I remember him. I remember watching him more as a younger kid, like let's say 5, 6 years old. Because as I got older, I just started to find him very boring. And no offense to Mr. Rogers, but I'm sure that's how a lot of the kids growing up probably started seeing him, as they were going into like, 9, 10, 11, like they're more into like Power Rangers and all the other stuff as opposed to something like Mr. Rogers or Sesame Street. Obviously, you have that phase where you grow out of it. So as I was getting older, of course, I would watch him less because, I found him boring. But I remember, my mother telling me that when I was like 5, 6 years old, for me, it'd be Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, there was a couple other PBS shows I used to watch back then that are not around anymore. And I remember like as an 8, 9-year-old kind of getting into Arthur a little bit too. But watching this documentary made me realize that this man is an absolute treasure. This is a man that humanity did not deserve a guy as great as Mr. Rogers. And it's kind of depressing because in the times that we live in now, we kind of need him more than ever, and he's not here. All we have is the legacy that he left us. And this documentary, really well made, by the way. Morgan Neville was the director. Shines a light on all the great he did and kind of that legacy that is Mr. Rogers and how badly we need somebody like him right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I remember seeing him, and just kind of when I was little, I getting to the point where like, oh, this is boring or this is lame or whatever. And then I remember seeing like the Eddie Murphy, the Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood or whatever, and thinking that was hilarious. Which by the way, they talk about it in the movie. They do kind of reference it. Yeah. And then just thinking as I grew up, oh, this is lame. It's funny because as an adult, like I got way more appreciation for him as an adult than I ever did as like a little kid. Because by the time I started watching him, I think I was already a little too old for it. But when I was an adult, I could and I would see, people post like videos or like, memes or whatever. And you start to think to yourself, oh yeah, this guy was like a really good, decent human being. and then you watch the documentary and you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what he was, just a good, decent person. And all he wanted to do was teach kids to like, be good people. You know what I mean? And like, and you just watch the documentary and you're like, oh, we need this right now. This is really sad that we don't have this right now. He has a little bit of a legacy. Like, my daughter watches Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood,
right?
Which is like an animated show using the little tiger puppet, but it's that from the original Mr. Rogers, like when he was in the Land of Make Believe.
I did catch one episode of that just because it was talked about in the documentary. Mm-hmm. I actually was flipping through channels one night because I have like the PBS Kids channel on my cable. So it was on like at 11 o'clock at night for some reason. So I just sat down and watched one episode just to see what it was like. Like, was it true to like Mr. Rogers? It kind of was. I mean, they did their own thing with it, obviously. But, I kind of got a kick out of it for what it was. I'm sure like,
I mean, it's right in like the 3 to 4 year old age range. Like it's exactly. She totally is into it. Like it's like very easy concepts. It's very very things that they're supposed to be learning at that age. Like how to say I'm sorry, or you should try things that are new and not be afraid of them and things like that. So like it's very it's right at that same age range. But they're very she's totally into it. So she's still getting some of that legacy. And actually, Amazon Prime, for all you parents out there, Amazon Prime has old Mr. Rogers Neighborhoods available. So if you're a Prime subscriber, you can stream them for free if you have kids. So I showed her some old Mr. Rogers Neighborhood episodes. She seemed to like them. So
that's good.
So yeah, that documentary was like at the very end of by the end of the movie, you're like, I'm not crying, you're crying. It was like, man, we need this. We need this in our lives right now.
Yeah, I took my mother to see this documentary because I grew up with Mr. Rogers. She really grew up with Mr. Rogers, and I knew she'd get a kick out of it. And yeah, it was definitely a tearjerker for the both of us because it's like, very rarely do you have like a good, wholesome guy like Fred Rogers around, and it almost seems like someone like he's like an anomaly now, like he was the exception, and that's very heartbreaking for me to say, but I feel like he's the exception to the rule,
You know what was really sad? Well, you know what the saddest part was? It's also like one of the points where it's like a triumphant moment in the movie, but it's also like it's just sad when you start to think about it. It's that point, and this is actually like a video that was shared like a couple years ago, and it kind of went around the world, around the internet and stuff. But they kind of elaborated more on it in the movie, and it's that point where he goes to Congress to argue for money for children's programming.
Yes.
And and then the whole story is like this senator is like a hard ass, and he's a Republican, and he's not gonna grant any money to anybody. He's just been saying no to everybody. And with his little speech, he convinces the senator to like grant him like the money for the children's television. And I was like, it's such a great moment in the movie, but when you think about it, that's not going to happen now. Like that doesn't happen. The way our politics are so divided, like those senator, if that happened today, that senator would be more loyal to his party than he would be to like doing the right thing. And that just kind of made me sad. You know what I mean? But like it's such a triumphant moment in the movie.
Yeah, and I think even the senator, like in that clip, he actually went as far as saying, Mr. Rogers, you single-handedly changed my mind, and you'll get the funding. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he said something to the effect of, "You single-handedly changed my mind, and now you'll get your funding," or something. Yeah. So, but yeah, that would never happen today.
No.
Never.
Speaking of Mr. Rogers, have you seen that picture that's been floating around of Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers?
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Is that this year?
If anybody should be picked to be Mr. Rogers, it's Tom Hanks, man. So that was great casting on that one.
Is that this year? Is that coming out this year?
I think that's next year.
Oh, is it next year? Okay. So he's still filming it then.
Yeah.
All right.
But I can't wait for that one. But yeah, definitely check out Won't You Be My Neighbor. It's already out on I should say DVD. Like the way that I don't know. Wait, who made this? Focus Features. I don't know what it is about some of these lesser releases. I don't know if you've been noticing this too, Adolfo, but a lot of the times the Blu-rays are really hard to come by for some of these movies. Amazon. I pre-ordered the Blu-ray for this one on Amazon, and I still haven't got it yet. And it came out, I think, September 19th, because they're being very cheap, and apparently, from what I understand, those Blu-rays are being made to order. So like they're not like mass producing them; they're just producing them as people order them.
Yeah, I think that's happening to smaller releases like this, because even though this movie was like very successful financially, it was a very successful movie. It was in the box office for a while, which is something you don't like. It was like I remember seeing it like at least a month or two, like in the theater, and that's very strange.
My art house had it like the whole summer practically.
Yeah, and that's odd for a documentary, but it was a very financially successful movie for a documentary. I mean, it didn't make Avengers money, but it made good money for doc. But even though it was a successful movie, it was still a smaller release, and I've noticed that with smaller releases, like Blu-rays are hard to come by. DVDs are easy. Blu-rays are hard to come by, but I think they really want to push you more to the digital copy, to the digital streaming version. I think that's what their plan is now.
Yeah, but I remember over the summer I did notice a few posts. No, or it might have been just last month in September. Remember those stories that floating around about like Apple taking away digital copies? Or something?
It was a little blown out of proportion, because what happened was, and I'm not sure if you've seen it, so it is still a good like cautionary tale for people to have physical copies of physical backups of your digital movies, right? And but what actually happened was this dude moved to a different country, changed his region settings on his computer, and once he did that, Apple took that copy away because they didn't sell that digital version in that country, right? So he still owned it. So if you were to change his computer's region back to whatever country he came from, the copy would still be there. So he still had it. It just like it disappeared because of the region thing, which is dumb. Right? The region locking there's dumb that we still have region locking in 2018. I just have to say it's a dumb, whether it's on physical media or on digital media, it's a stupid concept. We need to get rid of it already. Like, let's stop with it already. And I understand it's because of licensing deals and whatever, but we really have to stop the region locking. It causes problems like this. But it was a really good argument for keeping physical copies of things, because there are days when the internet goes down, you're not going to be watching your movies, or days, or what if, again, because technically you don't own the movie, you are leasing the movie. and they can always take it back, and then that's the problem.
Yeah, I remember you shared it. A few other people shared that same story. So like, oh, great. This is. I mean, you've been kind of like you already said. You've been kind of harping on the whole, physical. You should really have physical media. There's a place for it still, right now. Especially in the digital age, when like with a power outage, you lose all your digital copies, or if something should happen, with like the main server at Apple, you lose all your digital copies, and then what?
Exactly.
So you can always fall back on physical media in that instance. But yeah, that was a weird story when it first came out. But at least now, kind of all the facts came out, and it's been put back into proportion a little bit.
And also, there's one thing that you can. There's also another kind of workaround too, is that technically, if you see it disappear from your, like, let's say iTunes, it's because you're using it with the cloud. And I'm going to get really technical geeky here. It's because you're using it with the cloud, right? And that's because you haven't downloaded a local copy. If you download a local copy and you have downloaded it onto your machine, it will stay there. Like, it won't go away. So even if you change the region, if you download a local copy, it's always going to stay there as long as you have that computer.
I always do that. Every time I redeem a digital code, I always download the physical copy. Always.
But
I've
the
been
problem
doing
is
that for like years
that
now.
takes like a ton of space on your computer.
Yeah.
So
that's why I always put it on my external hard drive.
See, that's a good call. Yeah, I have like a 3 terabyte hard drive that I'm kind of slowly but surely kind of putting digital copies on. But yeah, that's a good way.
It was actually when I started running out of space for the digital copies that it prompted me to actually get a 1 terabyte hard drive.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, let's talk. You know what I want to talk about right now, very quickly.
Sure.
How much Jurassic World sucked.
Oh Jesus, that movie blew.
That
movie, it just didn't. Not to like pimp somebody else's review show, but the Red Letter Media guys really got it right, because if you watch that episode, it really kind of harps on almost everything I had a problem with. Like, the thing is that the movie, if you turned your brain off, right, and you literally just didn't think about it, it's not bad. It has decent action, and it's really stupid, action. But if you just start to think about it a little bit, you realize how stupid and crappy that movie is. And it's been a while since I saw it. I can't remember all the details as to all the different plot holes. But I just know that it had such a tone problem, right? Like the first half was like this kind of goofy like adventure in the same vein as like let's say like Jurassic Park 3 or Lost World. But then like the second half turned into like a horror movie. And then like a straight up horror movie with like these dinosaurs like crawling around like and stalking on people, right? And then you had like that ridiculous auction sequence where it was like, okay, first of all, this is dumb. Like this in a movie about genetically engineered dinosaurs, this stretches my believability, right? Like the bad guys were so cartoonish, like. It was like they were from like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon or something. They were so like ridiculously evil that it was hard to even believe it, And I love the fact that the freaking what's his name, the old dude who played who wasn't Hammond, but he may as well have been Hammond. Like, what was his name?
What's his face? James Cromwell.
James Cromwell. Right. So James Cromwell is like the Hammond stand-in. Like, who all of a sudden Hammond had this partner that for 5 movies they've never talked about, and suddenly he's had this partner that was like in on this whole thing and is whatever. So they're like adding to the mythology. They're like retrofitting to the mythology, which is dumb. But they add this guy, and he has this mansion, and somehow he doesn't notice that there is an entire laboratory underneath his house. And that there are all these trucks with dinosaurs pulling in and loading dinosaurs into his house, and he's shocked when he finds out. It's like, dude, it's your house. How do you not know that there are dinosaurs being loaded into a laboratory underneath your house? It was absurd. Yeah, that movie sucked. Like when the credits rolled, I was like, that was terrible. That was a terrible movie. There's one good part. There's one good part I will say. I did enjoy that scene where the volcano exploded and then all the dinosaurs were running off the island, and they fell into the water, and then I think it was Chris Pratt. Was it Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard were in that bubble thing, or was it Bryce Dallas Howard and somebody else?
It was Bryce Dallas Howard and someone else.
Okay. Was it the Indian guy who was always screaming like a girl?
Yes.
Okay. That guy was terrible. That guy was a horrible actor, and he added nothing to the movie. But all right. So when they're stuck in that bubble and they can't like get out, that was actually a pretty decent moment of like tension and suspense. And I actually really enjoyed that sequence. But the rest of the movie was just garbage.
Yeah. My take, real quick. All the plot holes notwithstanding, of course, because you pretty much harped on the majority of them. I just thought it was boring. I wasn't excited for this to begin with, but I was like, you know what? It should be just it should be fun to just kind of turn my brain off for a couple hours and just, kind of just enjoy the ride. But this kind of stretched that a little too far for me because it was very hard to turn my brain off when, you're faced with this moral dilemma at the end. I don't know if I want to go into it, but have the dinosaurs die or set them free? I don't know about you, Adolfo. Call me cold-hearted, but I would have freaking let them die, man. Because now look what you have. Yeah, you have sequel bait. Now you're gonna have another Jurassic World where the dinosaurs are everywhere. But
this movie made $1 kajillion. It's gonna have a sequel. I mean,
yeah, but that ending, the way they kind of opened the door for that sequel, it was so dumb.
Can we talk about? Hold on. Can we also talk about that? So a lot of people kind of gave Jurassic World, which I still kind of defend as a decent enough popcorn movie. A lot of people gave it crap as being kind of like a remake of Jurassic Park. Was this not a remake of The Lost World? I mean, because the first half of The Lost World is them on the island. And then the second half of The Lost World is them in San Diego or something with a dinosaur running around, right? This is the same movie. It's the first half is on the island and the second half is the dinosaurs in the real world. It's the same goddamn movie again.
Yes.
Except this time there's clones. There's little girl clones. I don't care if I spoiled that. That was stupid. Right. When I saw that, I was like, oh, Jesus, you got to be kidding me.
Did you think that the whole reveal of the mother was going to be something awesome or something more dramatic than it was just a clone of the daughter's just a clone of the mother?
Yeah, sorry if we spoiled that. Chances are you saw it anyway because the movie made $1 billion. But sorry if we spoiled that. But that was stupid.
Yeah, that was disappointing. It was more disappointing than stupid for me because I was legit the way that they kept not showing the picture of the mom. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. Maybe it's Laura Dern or something. They'll probably give us something wacky like
Laura
that.
Dern, or I was thinking is it gonna be the little girl from the first movie or something? I was trying to figure it out. And no, or what's her name? She was in the second. Julianne Moore was in the second.
Julianne Moore,
right?
yeah.
I was trying to think of all the different women that have been in this series, right? And it was oh, it's just she's a clone. That's dumb.
No. Do you want to know what the dumbest thing in this movie was? And I'm sure you will agree with me. Maybe not as the dumbest thing, but it was definitely up there as one of the top 2 or 3 dumbest things in this movie. How dare you, Universal? How dare you advertise our boy Jeffrey Goldblum? And only have him there for not even 5 minutes. That
was the biggest bait and switch in movie history. I think that was really that's all we're gonna see of him. Really, if you saw the trailer for Jurassic World with Jeff Goldblum in it, and you got excited, like I did, because when I saw that trailer with Jeff Goldblum, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this movie a shot because Jeff Goldblum's in it, and that's awesome. Here's the thing, folks. That's what you see him talk about in the trailer. That's his whole scene. That's it. They give away the entire scene in the trailer because that's all you see of him.
Yep. It's just him talking to Congress or the Senate or whatever congressional hearing he's doing. But yeah, that's it. And it pisses me off even more because in the promotional materials for this movie, you have Bryce Dallas Howard, Chris Pratt, talk about all the the new dinosaurs you're gonna see and the great action scenes, and in every single clip that shows them talking about the movie and how great it is, they always mention, oh, and Jeff Goldblum's back, so that's cool, And then they even had Jeff Goldblum do promo spots for this.
Unless he's gonna be, maybe he's gonna be in the sequel. I don't know, but That was annoying. That was annoying.
That was the dumbest thing in this movie, bro, and it broke my freaking heart because I love Jeff Goldblum, and to see him there for not even 5 minutes, it was like, fuck you, movie.
Oh, and then speaking of, I just thought of another like rip off, how it ripped itself off from Lost World. Like in Lost World, they had like the big game hunter who was like, I think it was Pete Postlethwaite, and this movie was freaking Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
Yes,
and I was like, it's the same character. It's the same goddamn character from that movie. It's the same one. Right.
Yep.
Oh my god, I was so angry at this movie.
I would even say the scene of the dinosaurs running down the volcano was kind of similar to, like, remember when they were like Pete Postlethwaite and his crew were chasing after the dinosaurs and netting them? It reminded me of that too, actually. So there you go. But yeah,
this movie sucked. It was like really sucked.
Yeah, and I was kind of shocked by how much it sucked, man, because I thought like Jurassic World was gonna be a decent enough popcorn movie that I was just gonna enjoy it, for what it was, and no, man, this movie blew.
This was terrible. This is Jurassic Park 3 levels of bad. I hate Jurassic Park 3. I think it's one of the worst. To me, up until this movie, it was the worst one in the franchise, and now I think this is the worst one in the franchise.
No, but that moment from Jurassic Park 3 with Alan.
Come on, no, I hate that part.
Alan. No, and that part always pops me. That's why, like right now. But anyway, yeah, this movie sucks. Anyway, what else can we talk about, man? What else
I saw this year?
Yeah.
So here's the kind of a thing. So my daughter is turned 3 this year, and for earlier this year, and I thought, it's probably rather around the right age that I could take her to the movie theater. And there weren't any good movies like that I really wanted to take her to. So until Father's Day this year, I took her to see Incredibles 2. Like that was our Father's Day outing.
Yes.
So since then, she's been to 3 different movies. She's been to see Incredibles 2. I took her to see Hotel Transylvania 3, and I took her to see Christopher Robin. And all 3 experiences, like I have to say, I'm pretty proud of my daughter for being like, she was quiet the whole time. She would like talk. But I thought it was okay because we were in a theater full of little kids, so it didn't really, like, and other little kids were talking. But she would, like, talk and say, hey, what's happening, or whatever, and I'd, like, explain something to her. She really, like, and when she's at home watching movies, sometimes she'll, like, sit there for, like, 30 minutes, and then she'll, like, get bored and, like, start playing with a toy or walk away or whatever. But, like, when she's in, like, a dark theater, like, in a big cushy seat, with candy and popcorn in front of her, her eyes are glued to that screen, and it was like I'm like turning my daughter into that little cinephile. And so far, all 3 experiences have been fun. Even though Hotel Transylvania 3 is a bad movie, and as I was watching there, I was like, I've seen all these movies because I've seen the first 2 as well, and because my daughter as well has seen them, and I'm watching. I'm like, we didn't need this movie. This movie does not need to exist. This movie is completely unnecessary to like the plot, but it doesn't matter because we're probably gonna get a 4th one because again, this movie made a lot of money because it's it's a very simple concept and whatever. But even though it was kind of a bad movie, she really enjoyed it, and it was good bonding time, father-daughter bonding time. So
yeah, definitely.
That was fun. Christopher Robin was like, dude, that
was great.
That was a great movie, but it was like within like the first like half hour, I'm like, all right, why this theater is too dusty? Something wrong with my eyes. Like that part where Christopher Robin's back in the 100-acre wood, and he's there with Pooh, and he's like still kind of pissed off and agitated, and Pooh says, "Well, I guess you don't need me anymore." Then he disappears. I'm like, "Oh my god!" I was like, my heart dropped. Yeah, that was a great movie. Like that was excellent. I mean, it was kind of like Hook, if you think about it. It was like the same movie as Hook, but
right.
A lot better than Hook because Hook does not hold up. Sorry, people, it really doesn't. But it was really well done. I really enjoyed that film. And Incredibles 2 was amazing. It was absolutely fantastic. Even though I kind of saw the villain coming from a mile away. Like,
me too. Yeah,
it was like, okay, I know who the villain is. But it was still really fun. Yeah, I will say this about Hotel Transylvania 3 real quick though. They got their formula and it works. I've seen because she's watched the other 2 movies since then, and like I keep watching. I'm like, okay, this is like the same movie over and over again. They just make monster puns like for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But whatever. It's stupid kids movie, and it's fine. It didn't really offend me, and she got a kick out of it. She's really into like spooky stuff though, which I think is fun, and she's into like spooky movies. Like, so the two big examples recently has been Nightmare Before Christmas, which I have kind of stayed back from letting her watch, but she started watching it the other day, and she's totally into it. She didn't, because I thought it might be a little too scary for her, right? But she's fine. She's totally into it. And the other one is, I'm not even joking when I say this, but there is a straight to DVD or straight to digital movie that came out this year called Scooby-Doo Batman Brave and the Bold. And I'm not lying. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. You should. I'm gonna give it a recommendation because it's like, I'm not sure if you ever watched that Brave and the Bold cartoon, where it's kind of like it's not like Batman the animated series Batman. It's almost like Adam West Batman, right, but not quite as goofy. It's a little more like, he's a little more serious, but it's a little more on the goofy side. It's kind of like halfway between, right? And you see like all the villains in there. You see like the Joker and the Penguin and Clayface and all this other stuff. But they're mostly like kind of going after like this new villain, and he's teaming up with like the Scooby Gang. And it's like, it's kind of a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of a lot of fun. Like, I actually kind of give it a recommendation. You should go out and watch it.
Oh man. I mean, if it's probably, those movies always come on like Comedy Central or Boom like all the time. So I'm sure like in passing I'll probably catch that.
Yeah, if you see it, give it a watch. I'm not joking. It's like short. It's like 80 minutes or something. It's really short. But it's like, it totally is in the spirit of like Scooby-Doo. If you're a fan of Scooby-Doo, it's totally in that spirit, you know, and it's totally in the spirit of Batman at the same time. And it somehow it works. I don't know why it works, but it does, and it's actually kind of a lot of fun.
Oh wow!
It was better than Batman v Superman. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, all right. You don't want to piss off the Snyder fanboys there, but but anywho, real quick about some of those. Incredibles 2 was great. I really dug the whole storyline that they went with, about, because it's very true to life now how like everybody's capitalizing on like, you know, female empowerment. Oh, you got to have the female superhero be in the spotlight now, you know. And I kind of like the way they kind of made a narrative out of that. It was very interesting. It kept me hooked, at least personally. But yeah, the villain at the end I saw it coming from a mile away, just like you. So that kind of, you know, disappointed me, but everything else about it was great. I dug the movie. And
then the Jack and the raccoon stole the show.
Damn right they did.
That was really funny. I was entertained by that.
Yeah, and then as far as Christopher Robin, that's another one that I took my mother to, because she's I probably mentioned it on the show before, but she's a huge Winnie the Pooh mark. So I took her to see Christopher Robin, and that was really good, man. Like, I was kind of expecting it to be like this, it's just an Winnie the Pooh movie. It'll be fine, you know. I'll enjoy it. But no, man, it was giving me the feels after like halfway through. Like, especially that scene that you were just talking about. Like, you know, he's still pissed about being in the 100-acre wood. I got to get home. I got to do the paperwork. You know, I got to do all this. And then like Pooh's like, oh, well, you don't need me. Like, no, wait, Pooh. And then he just vanishes, bro. And it's like,
oh, that was rough. Oh! That was rough to watch.
No, man.
And it's funny because you know, when you saw the trailer of that movie, right? And then you went into that movie, you knew exactly what all the story beats were going to be. And when you watched it, you got exactly most of those story beats, right? Like, you knew it was going to be about the absentee father who learns how to be a kid again, learns to discover his childhood, learns that, and you know, reconnects with his family and his daughter, blah, 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 right? You knew that was all going to be it. That's the whole movie. You know that going in, but it still completely 100% works.
Yeah, because it's like you're taking a character that you're supposedly familiar with already, because you've only seen him as a kid. And they kind of turn that on their head. Well, now he's grown up, and, you know, he's got grown-up problems, and he's become kind of this neglectful father who kind of needs to now rediscover, you know, the kid in him. And this might sound kind of cheesy. This might sound a little bit cheap popish, kind of like in the style of Mick Foley, but it kind of reminded me of like when I did my little student film, and the way that I kind of structured that. It was the workaholic father who just cared about work, never didn't care about his family, didn't see his kids. And then one day he kind of just snapped, and like he became a kid again. And it didn't exactly go like that in Christopher Robin, but it was more of a slow progression. I mean, I only had 12 minutes to work with, so I tried to use that time effectively. But here, like, it's a slow progression. Like, Winnie the Pooh finds him again, and little by little, he starts discovering, wait a minute, I am taking this too seriously. I'm not seeing my family enough. Oh, by the way, Agent Carter, bro, in this movie,
Agent
awesome.
Carter. Oh my god. Oh, I love me some Haley Atwell.
I love
Haley Atwell is a very fine-looking woman.
Yes, she is.
And I could look at her for days. But yeah, she was in the. But these kind of movies, dude. I always kind of used to scoff at these kind of movies, but like, dude, once I became a dad, this shit works on me. Like, it's so easy to manipulate me with these kind of movies now. Any movies about like fathers and their children, especially fathers and daughters, I'm gonna be in the bag for it. Like, whatever they do is completely gonna manipulate me every single time.
Yeah. No,
every time. Dude, I got nervous. I got upset at freaking San Andreas when The Rock couldn't find his 27-year-old daughter. That movie manipulated me, and that movie was ridiculous. So
what about Skyscraper, bro?
I never watched Skyscraper.
Skyscraper's all right. I mean, it's you know what it is about Skyscraper? It's trying to be Die Hard, and it doesn't have the heart of Die Hard. That's the thing. Like, it's all show, like it's all action, but none of the heart. Like, I love The Rock. Don't get me wrong, but he's no Bruce Willis in Die Hard, bro. And it's so obvious that's what they're going for. But to me, it didn't work. I kind of hated too how in that movie, and this is kind of going to spoiler territory, but I mean, it's Skyscraper. I mean, I don't know if anybody really cares about that movie.
What he gets out alive.
Fair. What the hell's going on with me? Fair spoiler warning here, but there's a scene like 5 minutes in where he's meeting with his friend, and his friend like gets out of the elevator to say hi to him, right? And as soon as I saw the friend, just the way he looked, I was like, "That's the heel. That's the fucking heel, bro."
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's the fucking heel, and I was right. Now, he's not the lead heel, but he betrayed The Rock. So there's that. So I knew that was gonna happen.
Let me ask you this. He may not be the lead heel, but did he get more? Did he get more screen time than freaking Joe whatever from in Rampage? Joe, what's his name? Joe, the dude from he was
Joe Manganiello.
Manganiello, right? Yeah. Did he get more screen time than that guy?
It's about 50-50, I'd say, like the same, about the same.
So here's the thing about that movie, right? Like, I actually wanted to see it because it looked ridiculous, and it
is ridiculous.
No, but
it's just.
But here's the thing.
It's cheesy.
Here's the thing. It looked, and sometimes I'm all in for that stuff because, like, for example, San Andreas. I liked San Andreas because it was so stupid. Like, it was so unbelievably stupid and not credible at all. But like, I was in it because like this is dumb, and I enjoy it because it's so over the top. And I was kind of looking for that, but all the reviews I read were like, it wasn't quite that. They were going for it, but it treated itself almost too seriously. And I was like, oh, that's not what I want. So that's why I never watched it.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay, but for me, it was just one of those like, okay, I saw it. It is what it is. And now I'm moving on with my life, So unfortunately, it's one of those. Like it's. I mean, if you're into stuff like that, I mean, go ahead and check it out. But personally, like, I just kind of forgot about it like 5 minutes afterward. So,
wow, that's pretty bad.
It is what it is. One movie I did not forget about 5 minutes after was Ant-Man and the Wasp. I really got a kick out of that one.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
It was a nice little breather.
It's like a palate cleanser.
Yeah, because obviously it takes place before Infinity War happens, right after Civil War, actually. So it was a nice little break from that main storyline. I know people were kind of disappointed, like, oh, I want to see what happens. Well, you got to wait for Avengers 4 to see what happens next with that. But I did like the story here. I did like the attempts to get Janet Van Dyne back. That kind of was the heart of the story. Like, Hank Pym trying to get his wife back, and then they're still mad at Scott for getting in trouble in Germany. They always reference Germany, which is from Civil War. By the way, I know we say this a lot, and I know I say it a lot too, but I can't say it enough. Like Paul Rudd, I love Paul Rudd, man. That guy has charisma oozing out of him all the time, and like he was great here. Like the scenes with him, especially with Evangeline Lilly, with Michael Douglas. All great stuff. Our boy Larry Fishburne got some screen time here too, which I dug. Randall Park, bro,
Randall Park
the
was
FBI
great.
agent. He was great here too. Him trying to learn the magic, bro. That always they ran with that gag the whole movie. That I got a kick out of that. And our boy Bobby Cannavale again, like 5 minutes, but he got
great.
I don't see him enough anymore, bro. I miss that guy.
He was awesome.
And yeah, and Michael Pena. I mean, you know what pissed me off though about this movie? This is probably the only thing that they toned down the Michael Pena stuff. It was obvious that they did that.
Yeah, they did.
It was heartbreaking.
I don't know if it was like on purpose or like no, because I don't think it was on purpose in the sense of like I don't think they didn't want to do it. I bet you it was probably like I bet you there's like stuff on the cutting room floor that we didn't see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and our boy Walton Goggins playing a heel again like he always does.
Yeah, if I had to complain, I think he was a little underutilized. I think it was kind of like him in Tomb Raider. Like, I mean, he was better in this than in Tomb Raider, but like it was like he wasn't quite like he's such a great actor. Like, I mean, just watch Hateful Eight. He's fantastic in that movie. But like he's such a great actor, but I just feel like his best scene was in that scene in like the hotel ballroom or whatever at the very beginning whenever Hope goes to like make that deal with him. That's his best scene. And then like, he doesn't disappear from the movie, like he still kind of popped in and out. But like
then he becomes like that bumbling heel kind
of. Yeah,
of.
like he doesn't like do because there's like two other heels in the movie. There's the ghost and then there's like the person behind it. I don't want to spoil who it is, but there's like a person who's like kind of funding the ghost, right?
Right.
And like, it's not an actual ghost. That's just the name of the character is the ghost. But it's so there's a couple of heels. So he's not like the main heel. It's kind of like a side heel. But I just feel like he could have been better used. But he was still fine. He was fun. Like it was a fun movie. It's funny because what I really appreciated is that like you kind of need movies like Ant-Man and the Wasp and like Spider-Man Homecoming, like in between like the big huge Avengers movies, because it's not about saving the world, right? It's about doing this like one small thing that's for the people in the story is a huge deal, but it doesn't like the world isn't going to blow up, right? And that's kind of what I appreciate about like you kind of need those in between the big Avengers Infinity War stuff.
Right, and of course, we can talk briefly about it now, I'm sure, because I mean, we won't go too much into it because the Blu-ray doesn't come out for another week or 2 weeks, but that post-credit scene kind of bridged the gap a little bit for us. So that was I mean, I knew it was coming, man. I knew that was coming, but it still didn't stop me from being shocked. You know, it was a great little connection to Infinity War, and I did get a kick out of the actual like post credit scene of the ant. Like I'll just talk because I mean it's just the ant playing Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I kind of liked that aspect, like in the setting it was like the world's going to chaos and the ant is just kind of oblivious to all of it, you know?
Yeah, because you have like the emergency broadcast system going and things like that. That was actually kind of cool. But then you get like a little funny tag at the end. But yeah, so I don't know if we should spoil it, but basically, if you saw Infinity War and what happened to a lot of the heroes at the end of Infinity War, like the same kind of thing happens at the end of Ant-Man, right? And for those of you who've seen what happens, knows what we're talking about. So because of where he is in that post-credit sequence, that apparently, like all the geeks are like theorizing, right? That him being there is what is going to kind of set the plot in motion for the heroes to kind of fight back in part 4. And it is because he's like because that quantum thing, they're apparently going to try and leverage that as like a time travel thing, right?
Right.
And a lot of people have been talking about like a lot of the actors refilming scenes from earlier movies, from earlier Avengers movies. So it makes me wonder, like especially movies where like the Infinity Stones played a part. So it makes me wonder, like, if that is indeed what they're doing, they're time traveling back to the other movies to stop like Thanos from getting the Infinity Gauntlet or creating their own Infinity Gauntlet. I don't know, but it could be one or the other. I could see happening.
Right.
So,
which I'm excited about.
Could be interesting. So, yeah. And speaking of Marvel stuff, did you see the Captain Marvel trailer?
I did.
What did you think?
Pretty neat. I gotta say, I'm excited for it. I believe that's the next one coming up before Avengers 4. I gotta talk about Avengers 4 in a little bit too, but let's talk about Captain Marvel for a little bit because I was impressed with the trailer. Honestly, I dug it. Made me excited for the movie. But did you? I hate to harp on this, but I have to talk about it now that you mentioned it. Did you see that post from Twitter that woman? I just call her a woman because she's a woman. That woman did about how Samuel L. Jackson had like more speaking lines than Captain Marvel did in the trailer and his Captain Marvel's movie. Like, are you really gonna complain about that? Like, are you serious right now? It's one of those feminists that's trying too hard.
Okay, he had more speaking lines in the trailer, but like every other shot was Brie Larson like looking like a badass.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, that and no, you know what they did in that trailer that I bet the marketing department for DC that whenever they made their Wonder Woman trailer, I bet you they kicked themselves that they'd never thought of this. Is that part in the trailer when you see watch her and you see the word her and then they add an O, become a hero, or I'm like, oh my god, that's so brilliant. Like, that's so brilliant that they did that. Like, I never would have thought about that, like the two words like that, and they did that in the marketing, and I was like, oh my god, the people who made the Wonder Woman trailer like probably thinking, why didn't we do that? Not to take anything away from Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's a great movie, but like whoever edited that Captain Marvel trailer, that was brilliant. That was a brilliant move. There's a lot of cool stuff in there that I saw. You saw the Skrulls, which I don't know if you know what the Skrulls are, but the Skrulls are like deep. I don't know if I want to say deep cut, but they're like old school Marvel villains. Like, they're like, I think Fantastic Four #2 they first appeared in, right? Like, they're old school Marvel villains. And they're like a race of alien shapeshifters, basically. And which is why there's a scene in the trailer where you see Captain Marvel punch an old lady. It's probably a Skrull. Like, that's all I'm saying. I love the shout out to Blockbuster at the beginning because this movie takes place in the 90s.
90s.
And speaking of this, for both Captain Marvel and for Ant-Man, Marvel using that de-aging stuff, man. Like, Samuel L. Jackson looks like he stepped out of like The Long Kiss Goodnight. You remember that movie?
Yes, I do.
He looks like he stepped right out of that movie. And freaking Michelle Pfeiffer in Ant-Man looks like she walked off of Batman Returns. Like,
damn right.
It was like, holy crap! Like, they are so good at this now. Like, they are like the real test is going to be, I think, Captain Marvel. I don't know how much Samuel L. Jackson is in that movie, but like, I assume it's going to be like a good chunk of it, right? So that's going to be the real test, because up until now we've only seen it like in really short little, like, we saw that little scene in Ant-Man. You saw the little scene in Guardians 2 with Kurt Russell at the beginning. They did it in Civil War with Robert Downey Jr., and they did it in the first Ant-Man with Michael Douglas, but they were all short scenes, right? Like, this is going to be like presumably like a good portion of the movie. We'll see if that uncanny valley kicks in or not.
Right.
It certainly looked way better than Jeff Bridges and Tron, which I love that movie. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Tron Legacy, but it's when you watch that movie, you're like, well, that looks so weird.
Yeah, it hadn't been perfected yet apparently by that time, but now they seem to got a handle on it. I'm excited for Captain Marvel. Let's talk about Avengers 4 real quick, because I think they just recently wrapped, and I'm sure you saw Chris Evans's tweet.
Yeah, I'm a little annoyed about it because I was like, dude, did you spoil the movie?
Okay, so I mean, I'm not too privy about some of this stuff. Maybe you are. So now after this movie, Evans is done. I think Downey's done. I think Hemsworth is done too, right? Or does he have another?
He might. I don't know if he's signed, but he said he would do another movie. But I don't know if he's signed or not.
But he might not be signed right now. Are definitely done though after this, right?
The what?
Or it's Downey and Evans that are definitely done after 4, right? Or we don't know that yet.
We don't know, because Downey's been done before. Like, they've not had him
after
sign
Iron Man 3.
stuff
I think he was
before.
supposed to be done.
and then they keep re-signing him for more movies, because the thing is that Downey especially, I think he's just too expensive. And ironically, because of Iron Man restarted his career, he's now too expensive, right? And Evans and Hemsworth are probably kind of floating in that territory too. So, I don't think they make Robert Downey Jr. money, but they're going to be they probably make really good bank. So, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. And kind of shifting gears. Well, let's talk about Marvel, not so much NCU, but so Dark Phoenix got pushed back again.
After that trailer dropped, and then everyone was like, eh. And then all of a sudden it got pushed back.
And you know what? And what's funny about this is that I haven't been keeping up with any of the stuff with Dark Phoenix. I didn't even know there were reshoots.
Oh, dude, it's been reshooting. So that and New Mutants, both of them have been reshooting forever. Like, New Mutants should have been out by now. And I think Dark Phoenix...
I think it's supposed to be out this month, from what I remember reading about.
New Mutants was supposed to be like a summer release, from what I remember. And I think Dark Phoenix was supposed to be out like around... like by the end of the summer, too. So both of them got pushed back to the next year, which is never good. That's never a good sign. And I actually liked the New Mutants trailer. I kind of dug like that horror movie vibe they were going with.
Right.
But that Dark Phoenix trailer was so tepid. You know, it was so like, all right, you know, I guess I'll watch it. You know what I mean? It was like, I just didn't really care.
Yeah, same. I mean, it's heartbreaking for me to say that because I love Days of Future Past so much.
I mean, and
then Apocalypse was and that kind of killed it for me. So,
but you know, interestingly though, a couple of things are coming from that though. There have been two kind of little kind of pieces of like news but not news regarding X-Men and Marvel. The first one was not Kevin Feige, but whoever's above Kevin Feige. I forget his name. Said, I think it's the guy who fired James Gunn, whatever his name is.
We didn't even talk about Jimmy Gunn yet, bro.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But that guy, let me look it up real quick because I forget. I want to make sure I get his name right. What is his name? His name is Bob Iger. I think he said he said that someone asked him about the X-Men and the Fox, because the Fox deal is pretty much almost done. Like, it's been like there's no legal loopholes for it anymore. I just think they just have to work out like contracts or whatever. But it's pretty much done. Except the only thing that has been done is like the signature on the paper, right? But the Bob Iger basically said, when asked about the X-Men stuff, was he basically said, I don't see any reason why Kevin Feige wouldn't take over the X-Men. So that to me tells me that that once it's all said and done, X-Men's going to the MCU, right? So that's the first kind of bit of news-ish stuff. The other bit of news-ish stuff is the current people in charge of the X-Men franchise. And I forget their name. I know one is like Simon Kinberg, and I forget the other one, are saying that as of now, they are still working as if they're under Fox. They're still going through all their plans as normal. They haven't had any contact with Disney about anything and how to plan their new movies in the future. So it's kind of like they're in this weird zone of like Disney owns them, but they don't own them, right? So it's kind of like the Fox guys are just still going through with their plans, which they kind of should at this point, because they don't want to, because you don't want to just stop everything and wait, right? So they're going through with their plans, but Disney's basically just assuming that once everything goes through, it's theirs. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they're in that weird kind of transition phase where, like, this is pretty much a done deal, but I mean, we're still operating like everything's the same as before.
And I would be shocked if everything goes through by the time the next Avengers movie comes out, if they don't do some sort of like post-credit sequence where they tease something with the X-Men. Now, I'm not saying you're going to see Hugh Jackman pop up, but what I am saying is it's very easy just to like throw, like kind of like the pager at the end of Avengers Infinity War. Like, you didn't see Captain Marvel, but you saw that pager, right? Just something like that, that's just like a little hint that's like, okay, here are the X-Men. Because, it's really... So one thing I've learned is that... Remember the end of the first Avengers movie? At the very end of the credits, you see them all eating shawarma. That was like
Yes.
filmed like 3 weeks before the movie came out, and they like quickly added it in. And the reason like you don't see Chris, like the reason you see like Captain America with his hand on his face is because Chris Evans had grown a beard, and they couldn't show the beard obviously, so he had his hand on his face. So like that, so you can quickly film a quick little thing to throw at the end of the post credits. So if everything goes through and everything is all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed before Avengers 4 comes out, I would be shocked if they don't put in something, just like anything, just like just a shot of like the mansion or at least anything, just something to like say, hey, this is part of the universe now. Because here's the thing, they have a perfect excuse now, because with the Infinity Gauntlet changing reality, shit could have gone wrong whenever they fixed everything to now introduce the X-Men, you know? Now, I'm not saying that they're going to introduce the Fox X-Men or if they're going to introduce like a new version. That's still up in the air. But either way, it's a perfect way to bring that in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they'd be stupid not to do it that way.
I mean, it's a perfect
opening.
It's like, oh, when Thanos fucked everything up and we brought it back, this opened the portal to an alternate universe that is now part of our universe, and blah blah blah. There you go.
Yeah, definitely. Before leaving, I want to talk about DC for a little bit too, because we had a couple of big developments with DC as well. But James Gunn, man, that shit depressed me to no end.
It still angers me, to be honest, because it's a really stupid thing. And for those who don't know, basically the short story is the short version is James Gunn 10 years ago, when he was on Twitter, made a bunch of stupid, shitty, like offensive jokes, like pedophilia jokes, rape jokes, things like that. They weren't funny. No one is excusing them. They're horrible jokes by far. But here's the thing about that. One, it was before he was hired as the Guardians director, right? So, two, he had since apologized for those things multiple times. And three, everything you see about this guy on social media or in the news has shown that he has like kind of repented for like any of his past, and he's like shown himself to be like a pretty good, decent, moral person. Right? I just want to get that out of the way. What bothers me about all this is that Disney would have. I don't believe for a second that Disney doesn't do background checks on people they hire, right? So they would have had to have known that he had this in his social media post, and they hired him anyway for Guardians 1 and 2, right? And if they didn't, then it's on them for not doing a background check. But either way, that's on Disney. And, you know, you have this, like, douchey, right-wing, conservative asshole, Mike, what's his name, Cernovich? Who, like, was responsible for Pizzagate, by the way. He's one of the people responsible for Pizzagate. Because James Gunn is a very outspoken anti-Trump celebrity, he basically used these tweets as like ammunition to get James Gunn fired. Now, in today's day and age, with corporate, like you've seen this, like with Roseanne making those jokes, and that's the biggest like kind of comparison people keep making. Is like, well, if Roseanne can get fired, James Gunn should get fired. The difference with that is that I'm sorry, and I'm in a soapbox here. The difference with that is that Roseanne made those tweets in real time, in current time, and didn't really apologize for them. Whereas he made those way in the past, apologized for them already, and then was still hired. So that to me is like, that's acting in bad faith on all parties involved that he got fired. I think it's bullshit that he got fired. And I understand from a corporate perspective why he was fired. And I almost agree with it from a corporate perspective, because you don't want bad publicity. I understand that, but it's still a cowardly thing to do, because you basically submitted to a right-wing Nazi. For lack of a better term, he was a right-wing Nazi that they said, okay, sure, we'll take this down. We'll fire this guy. And that to me is bullshit. The entire cast wrote like a letter. They all signed it. They said that he should not be fired. They should bring him back. Batista specifically has been the most outspoken of it, which I find interesting because he is the one with the most to lose. because he's the one with the smallest career, right?
Right.
Like everyone else, like they're like Bradley Cooper's gonna be fine. Chris Pratt will be fine. Zoe Saldana will be fine. But Dave Bautista, this was the movie that made him, right? But also that's probably why he's being so loyal to James Gunn, is because this dude made him a star. Of course he's going to be loyal to his friends. So like I really respect Bautista for that. But it's a whole clusterfuck. And at the very least, what I hope, because they now have shut down production on Guardians 3. They were in pre-production phases, and now it's on the shelf, and we don't know what's going to happen to it. So at the very least, if James Gunn doesn't come back, I at least hope they use the script, because like they shouldn't rewrite a new script. Like they should use his script.
They owe him that much. If they're gonna bow to unfair pressure and they're gonna like stick to their guns with that, no pun intended, at least use the man's script. I mean, even Batista said like if they don't use the script, he's walking. So
what he said was he's gonna do whatever he's contractually obligated to do, but don't expect like anything more than like going through the motions.
Yeah,
and I kind of respect. I can respect that from Batista for him having the most to jeopardize, willing to jeopardize it out of loyalty. Like that's very admirable.
Yeah, just a whole, like you said, it's a whole mess with the situation.
And by the way, for those people like, well, he shouldn't have said that stuff. Yeah, no one is denying that. No one is denying that he shouldn't have made those jokes. Every single person, even the people defending him, are saying, yeah, those were shitty jokes. He never should have said them. But he apologized well before he was hired, and they hired him anyway. So it's hypocritical to fire him now.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. But moving on to DC real quick. The big news coming out of that obviously is Henry Cavill will no longer be Superman.
Yeah, and then did you see that weird tweet that he sent out, like of him like playing with the Superman doll and then like walking away? It was weird.
Yeah,
I was like, "What are you doing, Henry Cavill?" I don't know what to think about it. I mean, it kind of like just goes to show how much in disrepair that entire DC line is, because Affleck is apparently out. Like there's like I don't know if it's official yet, but like he like people keep talking about him being out of the game right at this point. Right? They're making like two different Joker movies that have nothing to do with the DC movies. Right. And they've got all sorts of other shit going on. It's just very odd. It's kind of in disrepair right now. I think they've kind of given up on the shared universe thing. Well, I don't even know if they've given up on it, but they're not going to push it as hard. Because I think, because they still obviously have Aquaman coming out. And that, it's still the same actors. So I'm assuming that still takes place in the same world that the Justice League did. And they have Wonder Woman coming out, the second Wonder Woman coming out. But I think they're going to give up on like hardcore connecting everything like Marvel does.
Because they screwed it up already.
And you know what my suggestion would be is it's probably not a bad idea, but I don't necessarily think you need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think you can still keep stuff in the same universe, but not like shove it down our throats. Like you can have the Aquaman movie, for example, right? That's coming out. Which, by the way, did you see that 5-minute trailer they did the other day?
I saw it at Comic-Con actually.
You saw it at Comic-Con? That's a great trailer.
Yeah,
that movie looked awesome. But so you have that 5-minute trailer they released there. So like it looks really cool. You have that movie come out. You don't have to reference anything else in you don't have to reference Wonder Woman or Superman or whatever. But then in a few years, if you want to do Justice League again, you can still do it with those characters. They just don't necessarily need to reference each other in their movies. I think that's probably the smartest way to do it.
Yeah, at this point. But Aquaman looks kind of good, actually. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of digging it right now. So that 5-minute trailer that I saw this weekend kind of put it over the top for me.
I love that orange shirt at the end. That popped me. He had the orange shirt. I was like, I'm in for this. He has the orange shirt.
It's cool because like Aquaman's like for years, I'm this more than anybody, has been like the butt of many jokes.
Oh yeah, he was terrible, but they made him look. God bless Jason Momoa for making that character like interesting and fun.
Or as I call him, Roman Reigns, bro. Because I see him, I just see Roman Reigns, bro, for real.
He has more charisma than Roman Reigns.
Yeah, but Aquaman looks good. I'm kind of excited for that one right now. I did want to mention the Joker movie, the Joaquin Phoenix one, because they're actually going to shoot part of it in Newark, in my hometown. They're actually closing some streets. I think it's next week, not this week, but next week they're actually going to close some of the downtown area to film there for that movie. And I didn't know what movie it was for, but then I found out through like the grapevine that it was for Joker. Like, oh, cool, that's awesome. It's gonna create havoc for traffic in the mornings, but it's cool. At least they're shooting something in Newark. They haven't done that since I think Dark Knight Rises. They haven't shot here, so
I'm torn on this movie, because I'm of the opinion that Joker doesn't need an origin story. Like, Joker should never really be. You shouldn't find out what makes him him. Like, what I loved about the movie Dark Knight is that he kind of told different stories about how he got his scars. So you didn't really know which one was the right one, if any of them were right. And in The Killing, they got that kind of from The Killing Joke. There's kind of like a background of him in The Killing Joke that may or may not be true. And that's kind of how they've always, in both comics and movies, that's how they've always kind of talked about the Joker, is that he kind of has this ambiguous past. I don't really want to know about his past. But at the same time, that image, that footage they showed of Joaquin and the makeup did look pretty good. Like, it was kind of creepy and like, oh, that could be interesting. So I don't know. Like, I'm torn on this movie. I don't really want to see an origin story, but the thought of Joaquin Phoenix doing one is very interesting.
Yeah, even just the photo I saw was creepy enough that I'm kind of digging it too. So, I mean, we'll see what comes with that. And I mean, like you said, I think the story is that's not gonna be part of the same universe. But at this point, it doesn't matter. I mean, because the Jared Leto Joker went over so well,
Oof.
so
damaged.
Like a fart in church, bro. Anyway,
well, you talked about Comic-Con. How was that?
Oh, so I'll wrap up with that because we're already going over my scheduled allotted time. So I'll end with Comic-Con. We can kind of catch up more on this stuff next week. But Comic-Con was this weekend, New York Comic-Con. I don't know if you saw my posts I did a few hours ago on Facebook, but this is my first ever Comic-Con of any sort. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really know what to expect. Now, before I talk about my experience, I remember I think you talked about on the show in the past, like when your family had the comic book store, how you would always be at the conventions, like selling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, we had a table with comics, and yeah, I was a vendor.
Now, have you been to any cons recently, though, just kind of as a fan?
Yeah, I went last year to the Chicago one in the last August, not this past one, but two August ago.
So what I wanted to ask you was, because based on my experience on Saturday, I kind of wanted to ask you about. I was kind of thinking about this. How has the experience kind of changed since you were, I guess you were a teenager, like as a vendor, kind of selling comics, to like how like these conventions have grown in the years since?
From what I could tell from the vendors, that stuff hasn't changed as much. The booths are kind of all set up more or less the same. People kind of just walking in and out, and some people are kind of shady. Some people are on the up and up, and you got people in the middle. You got the several booths of different bootleg videos. Those are always good. But the vendors haven't really changed. What's changed from my experience is the personalities that are there. So like in the past, like I'm talking like 20 years ago, if you had, first of all, the level of celebrity is much higher, than it is before.
Right.
Like before, like the biggest celebrities were comic book artists and comic book like writers. Like you had Stan Lee or something, which is a huge deal now for everybody, but back then it was really only a huge deal for comic book people, right? And then you might have like actors from like Star Trek: The Next Generation, but not Patrick Stewart, but like maybe you'd get Data, right? Maybe you'd get I'm blanking on all the Star Trek names. Like
Jonathan
Wesley
Frakes,
Crusher or something, right?
Maybe Jonathan Frakes.
Right, maybe, yeah. You might get those level of people. You wouldn't get, a James Earl Jones, but you'd get David Prowse, right? You wouldn't get, you wouldn't get Mark Hamill, but you'd get like the dude that was in the Boba Fett costume. Things like that, right? But now you get like legit celebrities to show up to these things. So back in the day, if you wanted to get like an autograph from like, let's say Stan Lee, who was a big deal and still is, you would stand in a line for like a long time. You would pay like $20. He'd sign your thing. Maybe you'd get a picture, and then you'd be on your way. Now it's like you have to sign up for that shit ahead of time, and you have to like pay hundreds of dollars, and to get a picture, it's like a 1 second picture, and they shove you right out the door. So like, or you could pay for like $500 for like the VIP experience or whatever, which is like, who has the money to do that? So that aspect has certainly changed. They attract mainstream celebrities that have done like, like genre stuff. And sometimes not even genre stuff. Sometimes just regular mainstream celebrity. Like last year they had like John Cusack, who, okay, like John Cusack may have done a couple of genre things here and there, but John Cusack is not known for like comic book movies or sci-fi or horror. He's known for he's John Cusack, right? Like, so that was weird. Like it was just like, oh, John Cusack's here. A lot of wrestlers show up, like a lot of WWE guys show up at these things too. So yeah, they get like legit mainstream celebrities now, but like you pay a lot of money to get like a picture with them. That's literally what's changed that I can remember.
Like it's kind of like did you have cosplayers back then too, or was it like just just regular people?
Not like now. Like if you had if let's say you had like 100 people like in a given area, like 3 of them would be cosplayers. Now it's like 50-50.
It's like half the convention is in costume. Yeah. And because I'm such a lazy bastard, the most I can muster up is my Darth Vader hoodie, bro. That didn't even have like the helmet as a hood.
No, you don't have to go to you don't have to go to
I don't even have to go, but like I kind of wanted to kind of do at least the bare minimum or something, but yeah, so I kind of underestimated how much fun I was going to have with this thing. I was going to be like, oh, it's Comic-Con. I'm going to see people dressed as Spider-Man, dressed as Rick from The Walking Dead, or dressed as Thanos, or, some other wacky concoction. I saw a couple at the train station by my house that were also on the way to Comic-Con dressed as the Beast and Belle, which was kind of cool, actually. Because you don't see that around my neighborhood often, if at all, if it's not Halloween. So that was pretty cool. And I was, I'm just gonna walk through the booths, just kind of check out what's going on and be on my way. But no, dude, I walk into this huge convention hall. It's at Jacob Javits Center. It's off of 34th and 11th Avenue in New York City. For those who are not familiar with New York, it's hard to describe because obviously, like I said, it's my first time going to any sort of Comic-Con or whatever. And just walking into it's bustling. The whole time it's bustling. I kind of that was probably like the one thing I didn't like about it is that it's so crowded and the aisles are so paper thin that like you're bumping into people constantly. Like it's kind of hard to navigate through to the next booth, or like you see something you like, you got to go to like 10 people just to like go into a booth. It's a bit frustrating on that, and it's kind of like walking through the streets of New York, especially when it's busy, like when you're around like a bustling area like Times Square or Midtown. Like it gets very congested. And that's probably the one thing I didn't like about it is that because what happens is, even though you're not supposed to do this, apparently I found out people like take pictures with the cosplayers, but they're taking it right in the middle of the aisle, and you're trying to walk past them, and like and they're taking pictures. Like, dude. Like they have a special like section for you to take pictures with cosplayers, so you're not blocking the aisles. So, but that was kind of
all the time though, because the thing is that a lot of those cosplayers are like they're just if a kid sees Spider-Man, he's going to want to take a picture of Spider-Man right there. You know what I mean? Like you're not supposed to do it, but people do it anyway.
It's hard to control. Yeah, I get it too. It was just a little frustrating. So I'm going through the aisles, and then as I'm doing that, I'm going through like the New York Comic-Con app, seeing what booths there are. Like, by the way, just a little tip for people. If you're into Funko Pops, every other booth now sells Funko Pops at these conventions now. It was crazy. Like, I allotted myself a budget like for autographs because I knew going in definitely wanted to see Jason David Frank, but by the way, did you see on that he ran into CM Punk at Comic-Con?
I was gonna ask did he challenge CM Punk at all?
Like he made a comment about CM Punk. Not well in my presence, but I read a thing online about how he called out CM Punk again, or whatever, and
he's not gonna let that go.
He's not gonna let that go, man. But I will tell a story about Jason David Frank in a minute. But But yeah, so I gave myself an allowance as to what I wanted to spend at this, and I'm like, there's no way I'm even gonna get through half of this. Well, I spent all of it. I spent all my entire allowance that I gave myself. First, I met Austin St. John, who, for those who don't know, he was the original Red Power Ranger on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I got to meet him. I only opted for the autograph with him because he was a little too pricey when it came to picture and autograph, so I just got the autograph. He autographed my Red Ranger Funko Pop, so I have that sitting right next to me, actually, on my my little studio here. I brought down all my Funkos from the weekend to start displaying. I'm kind of setting up my little display here. So with him at the booth, I think it was J&J Collectibles was the booth. He was there. Walter Jones was there, who played Zach, the Black Ranger, and Karen Ashley, who played the second Yellow Ranger, Aisha. She was there too. And I think the name was Jason. I think David Felding. I was gonna say Jason Felding. David Felding, who played Zordon, was there too. So that was kind of trippy to see everybody there. Like you walk in there and like me, because I'm not used to seeing people like that up close. You're immediately starstruck, and it's like, oh my god, it's Jason. You know, it's the guy I used to watch as a kid every fucking afternoon at 2:30 on Fox. You know, it's right. He's right there in the flesh. Like it's almost you have to pinch yourself to kind of like, you know, make sure that it's real. Like it was, you know, it's just this something corny and nerdy to geek out about, but that's just me, you know. Like Power Rangers was my life for like 2-3 years. When I was growing up, and to see these people like that I watched on TV as a kid, like in the flesh, getting to shake their hands, it was a surreal moment for me. And then that kind of added to that when I got to see Jason David Frank, Tommy, the Green Ranger, the White Ranger, the Red Zeo Ranger. Like he was in so many incarnations of Power Rangers. Like he's like the Power Ranger guy when you think about Power Rangers and the old school, you think of Tommy first. And to meet Jason David Frank, he was a cool guy. You know, got to take a picture with him. He talked about his, like, just as I was going to go up, this is my little story I have about him. Just as I was about to go up to meet him, like I was next in line literally. And then like these three girls like were in front of me, and like, you know, they got their pictures, they got their autographs. And as I'm about to get called up, he gets his text, and it's from I don't know the guy's name, but it's from like his friend who's like an MMA guy, who's like, I don't know where he's competing or like what promotion he's in, but he's saying, oh, you know, this is my friend. You know, he used to be my sparring partner back in the day, and now he's contending for a title. I'm so proud of him. Like, and like his manager was like sitting next to him, so he was showing him like the picture that he sent. So you know, he's talking about like this fighter who like he used to spar with, and now he's like making it big somewhere. Like I don't know if it's Bellator or whatever, but and then, you know, I got to talking with him. You know, just thanked him for my childhood. Like you were my childhood, man. You know, Tommy, the Green Ranger, the White Ranger, Power Rangers was my life for like, you know, as a like 6-year-old, 7-year-old, you know, and I want to thank you for the memories for that. Oh, no, it's my pleasure. And we took a picture. I was on my way. You know, it was one of those things where you meet somebody like that, like Austin St. John, like Jason David Frank, and for like the good 5-10 minutes after you meet them, like you're still shaking just out of like this being starstruck and like just marking out for these guys, you know. And that's what, like, I had to cool down for about 10 minutes, so I just started walking around the booths because it was like I couldn't really do anything else. Like I was still like kind of calming down from that high. And then as I'm like checking out the booth, checking out the Funko Pops that everybody's selling, like, you know, some of them were like legit like comic booths. Obviously it's Comic-Con. You know, you forget that like people are actually still selling comic books, you know. I'm walking by one of the booths. I think it was Boom Comics, and I don't know if anybody knows Boom Comics, but they've been coming out with a Power Rangers comic book line. They've been doing WWE comic books, so they have a couple of properties that they're working with. And I swear to God, I had to blink twice to make sure that I was looking at the person I was looking at, but it was freaking Rocky, the second Red Ranger from Power Rangers, bro, was at that booth. And I didn't even know that he was going to be there. So I'm like, holy crap. But again, I didn't want him to sign, like, you know, he had like 8x10s that, you know, all these people have 8x10s that they, you know, that they sell. I wanted to give him something else other than buy one of his 8x10s. So I actually, earlier I walked by the Funko booth, which obviously with the way the Funko booth works now, you have to enter a lottery to get in. But next to the Funko booth was the FYE booth. Now, a lot of the FYEs by me have closed. So seeing FYE there, I kind of popped me because, you know, like the closest FYE to me is like freaking 15 miles away.
Still existed, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they're actually, I get their emails, like their newsletters, because they're coming out with like exclusive steel books, which speaking of that, they actually had a Beetlejuice exclusive steelbook, which I picked up at Comic-Con. I actually have it sitting right next to me here too. But I also saw that they had an exclusive Red Ranger Funko Pop. That's an FYE exclusive. I was like, holy crap, this is perfect. So I picked up the Beetlejuice steelbook. I picked up the Red Ranger Funko. I went back to Boom Comics. I met Steve Cardenas, I think that's how you say his last name, who was Rocky in the Power Rangers. Got to shake his hand. I got an autograph from him. He signed my Red Ranger Funko. I was perfect. I was like, dude, man, you know, Rocky in the flesh, man. I told, Tommy, I told Jason, you guys are my childhood, and just thank you for everything. Thank you for the memories. Like, oh no, pleasure, man. Thank you. And it was really cool meeting him too. He's a nice guy. And then, so I'm walking around the booths again, checking out some stuff. I took a lot of Dragon Ball pictures to send to Big D because he's the Dragon Ball guy. So, and as I'm going through Facebook, as I'm walking around, I see my friend who's also here at Comic-Con. He's actually one of my old film school buddies. And I see him post a picture with Trish Stratus. I'm like, wait a minute, Trish is here? So then I looked up the booth she was at, and dude, if I could have run over there, I ran over there. Obviously, it was hard to do that with the freaking crowd at Comic-Con, but I did the equivalent to running that I could have done at a comic convention. I ran to that booth. It was called Headlocked. And from what I understand, I found out this afterwards. Sting was there. Lita was there for a while. But when I got there, they were gone already. But Jerry the King Lawler was still there. Christian was still there. And then I saw Trish. And I was like, oh, I got to meet Trish. And I sent you the picture, man. I sent you the 8x10 that she signed. And I saw the picture I took with Trish. Yeah, that was a surreal moment too. And of course, I went into full Mark mode. I'm like, oh, I'll be at Evolution at the end of the month. I'll be rooting for you against Alexa. Like, oh, thank you very much. And I'm like, I just found out that you were here, like literally like about half an hour ago. He's like, oh, how'd you find out? Like my friend on Facebook, he just met you, and he posted a picture on Facebook already. So I was like, oh my God, Trish is here. I got to come meet her. And then I think I saw something on Twitter earlier, but I didn't really, I kind of glossed over it. And then she was like, yeah, it's always smart to post those things. That's how people know I'm here. But she was very sweet, class act. I love Trish Stratus. She was my crush for a long time in WWE. So it was another, again, it was surreal to meet her. Very, very, very cool moment for me. At that point, I had a decision to make. I either stay at the con or walk over to Madison Square Garden to do the Walking Dead panel, because from what I heard through the grapevine, that line was ridiculous to get into that. So I could try going in now. It's 5:00. The thing didn't start till 8, but with the way the line was shaping up, I probably couldn't get in. Even if I would have like a press badge. So I was like, you know what? I'll take the shot. I'll go in. I'll stand on the line, see what happens. I don't know what happened, man. Maybe it was fate, but just as I was getting there, they were letting out all the people in for that panel, and I just went right in. I went through security. I didn't even wait like 5 minutes on the line. So that was cool. That was cool.
So
and of course,
the panel?
It was as far as the actors, it was Rick, it was Daryl, Carol, Michonne, and Negan.
Oh, all so five like of them. All-stars right there.
The All-Stars. And, of course, you had the new showrunner, Angela Lang, was there. Robert Kirkman, Greg Nicotero, Scott Gimple, all those guys. Chris Hardwick was moderating, too. So I was happy to see that guy back, too, because he's been gone with the whole controversies that he had early in the summer. He's been kind of laying low for a while, but I was happy to see that guy back.
Was he received okay?
He seemed... The seats were actually... I was, like, sitting... It was at the theater at Madison Square Garden. Now, this is the second time I've been there in, like... maybe like 2 or 3 years, because the very first time I went was like years ago, back in like 98 when they did the Wizard of Oz play at Madison Square Garden. But after that, I hadn't been there since, up to when they did the NXT house show. I think it was like 2 years ago at the Garden. That was when Nakamura was still champ, so that was like 2 years ago, I think. And then this is my second trip back to the theater at MSG since then. So I was in section 202. I actually had some pretty decent seats. I got some great pictures. It was a cool panel. Basically, of course, if you follow The Walking Dead, you know that this is Andrew Lincoln, who plays Rick, his last season. They keep advertising it everywhere, like Rick Grimes' last episodes. So it's like, yeah, way to give away that he's gonna die. So yeah, so pretty much the whole panel was just the cast and the crew kind of just paying tribute to Andrew Lincoln, what a class act he is. Norman Reedus, who plays Daryl, was talking about how, like, he's like his brother, he's going to miss him. They had the little prank war going on set, and he's going to miss that. Like, it was sad, kind of, like, hearing Norman Reedus talk about it, like he was like legit his brother, so that was cool. And they kept promising us, they kept saying, Chris Hardwick was like, oh, at the end of the panel, you're going to get a 10-minute sneak peek of the season premiere, which premieres tomorrow night. Which by the time we're recording this already happened. It's Sunday night going into Monday night here. Monday morning, I should say here. So before we get to the clip, though, he has to do Q&A. So a lot of people line up at the mics, designated area to do Q&As. That takes about maybe 25 minutes of time. I remember not being that long of a time. So they get through some Q&As, and afterwards, the whole panel's preparing to leave because it's already like almost like 9:00, and Chris Hardwick goes, "Oh, by the way, folks, unfortunately, I have to make this terrible announcement. I won't be able to show you the clip today, the 10-minute clip." And everybody's like, "Oh!" Everybody starts booing, like, "Oh!" Well, wait a minute. I don't know if you all have plans right now, but why don't we just watch the whole thing? The whole place erupts, bro. So they showed the entire season premiere like at the end of that panel. So I got to see it like a day early before everybody else. So that was cool. Yeah.
Was it good?
I thought it was good.
I gave up on that show at like season 4, so I don't remember.
I thought it was good.
So
I thought it was good. The way they kind of like the characters, some of the characters are now like in the position that they're in, and the character progression was really good. What happened at the end of that episode was really good, very well deserved for a certain character. But I dug it. So I think they got me hooked already for at least the next couple episodes. So we'll see what happens with that. But after that, I caught the train home. I did have to go back this morning very quickly because I forgot to return my badge, and apparently I have to return those press badges. So I had to go back and do that. But before I dropped off my badge, I was like, you know what? Let me just make one quick stop at a booth, and I'll be on my way. So there was this booth that I passed that had this Michael Myers Funko Pop that was the FYE exclusive. That was like the bloody Michael Myers. So I was like, and I passed by it. I'm like, I'm going to come back for this. And I never did. So I went to that booth, plunked down the $20 for it, came back, and I told the guy, okay, now you can have my badge back. I'm done. So I picked up a quick Funko Pop, Michael Myers, before I left. And that was Comic-Con, man. I'm humbled that I got to do this. It was an amazing experience, and I'm looking forward to next year, man. Or as many Comic-Cons as I can go to that my wallet will afford me to go to. I'm gonna go to now, and it's kind of like opened the door to like this whole new world of geekdom, no pun intended. And like I want more of it now. So yeah, I can't wait.
They're a lot of fun. But I got to the point where I kind of like pick and choose based on like. Because buying comics, I don't really need to do any because I can buy comics like I don't really even buy single issues anymore because it's just too expensive to do that. So I buy like collected editions and things like that, like on trade paperbacks. So I really am going for like the people that will be there, the kind of exhibits they're going to be, any exclusives that are going to be there. So like. I skipped out on the last Chicago one just because it wasn't just enough to hook me. But if you have like those one or two or three things, like for you it was like the Power Rangers and Trish Stratus and stuff, like it could be really fun to like go in and experience that stuff. Yeah, and
what I'm gonna try to do, and I'm gonna see if I can talk to our boy Reg to maybe get me in as press for this, but I heard a little birdie told me that the Star Wars celebration next year is in Chicago. Oh. So I'm going to try to get into that one as press too. And while I'm there, maybe I'll pay you a visit. So
yeah, you better.
It will be my first trip to Chicago.
I'll take you to get some deep dish. You know what real pizza's like.
Here we go.
No, actually, don't give a shit about that whole war. I think it's stupid. But you should try deep dish.
No, but I do want to try some Chicago authentic deep dish. So that's on my bucket list to do. So I'm looking if that does happen, if I can make that happen, I'm definitely looking forward to that. But that was New York Comic-Con. And dude, we got so much other things to catch up on, but it is past my bedtime, so I'm gonna have to call it quits now. Sure, We've been on for like 2 hours now, so we gave him a good show. That's gonna wrap it up for Force Perspective. I'm just gonna go ahead and just maybe say episode 112.
Sure, why not?
If I'm wrong, you can laugh at me now, people listening. But if you have any questions, comments, feedback, just send an email to fpmpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow me personally on Twitter at SportsGuy515. You can follow the show on Twitter at FPMoviePodcast. And Adolfo, why don't you give them a little plugs of your own?
Okay, EssentialFilmsPodcast.com is the website. Essential Films Podcast on iTunes, where we discuss all the classic movies. Our last episode that is available, I believe, is Empire Strikes Back. But the City Lights episode will be dropping sometime this week in correspondence with my appearance on Turner Classic Movies, which again, October 14th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be doing the introduction for City Lights on that day with Ben Mankiewicz, and I am still geeking out about that. So make sure you catch that up. And then after that, our next episode is going to be Ben-Hur. I don't know when we're going to record that, but that is the next scheduled episode. And yeah, those are my. Oh, and also Essential Films on Twitter.
I don't know. We need to get We need to get a horror movie in this month.
We do. We can talk about that off the air. I was going to actually discuss that with you.
Yeah, I mean it's tis the season, right? So,
yes.
But for those who haven't checked out the latest Essential Films, where we just kind of shoot the shit on the film crate that I purchased from Vinegar Syndrome, that was a fun time, man. That I had a lot of fun.
Did you hear that episode? I put that up.
Yes, I did.
I just put it up as a bonus conversation.
But that deserved its own episode though. So you did right by that conversation. That was a lot of fun to talk about.
Yep.
And for those of you listening, thinking, what the hell are you talking about? What's Vinegar? We talk about it all on that episode. So check it out. Those of you who kind of like trashy cinema, I think you'll get a kick out of it. So definitely check that one out. It was a lot of fun to record. It was a great conversation to have with my boy here. So definitely check out that Essential Films episode. Anything else you want to talk about before we go? Any additional plugs or whatever? Anything else on your mind?
I think we got everything.
Yeah, well, not everything.
We'll
get to most of the stuff, but we'll get to all that next week. Maybe we can start talking about some more recent stuff. Maybe I can get
next
into
week, next episode. We don't know when next one will drop.
Well, okay. Well, let's just say next episode. I mean, I do want to definitely get into A Star Is Born. I got a lot of stuff to say about that.
Yeah, I gotta catch up with it. So
I gotta drop my written review for that this week. And I do want to, despite what people are saying, I do want to see Venom. I'm gonna check that out. And I didn't even scrape the surface on Alamo in the last 5 months. There's been a lot of Alamo shit going on with me. I don't know if you want to say that exclusively for Essential Films, but I mean, I could talk about some of it here next time.
Yeah, we can talk about it. We'll see where the conversation leads at. And we never even talked about Mission Impossible, which, by the way, spoiler, was awesome.
Yeah. Those movies are always so fun. So Mission Impossible was great. But anyway, we'll talk about that next time. Amongst as well as a bunch of other things that we missed. We'll talk about that next time too. So on behalf of Adolfo, I'm Mark, Sports Guy 515. Thank you very much for joining us, and until next time, we are out of here.